Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hi everyone and welcome to the show. It's Trevor Stockwell with you again today, and I know you're going to enjoy our guest on this episode. Do you ever get frustrated with how best to sell yourself, your product or your service? You know you can add value, but is your PR and marketing laying you down? Or is it going okay, but there's room for improvement? Well, Tracy, our guest today, is an international award-winning publicist. She's the founder and managing director of Lamourie Media. She's a frequent guest on TV, radio, and high-profile podcasts around the world, talking on topics of leadership, empowerment, entrepreneurship, as well as all aspects of media and public relations. She's also writing a book which is about to be released called Get Repped. Get the title right. Build your brand with effective public and media relations. And she's here to help us out on that very topic. So welcome to the show, Tracy Lamourie.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me.
No, you're welcome. It's great. I'm excited to plumb the depths of your knowledge and experience, actually, to talk about lots of different things today. Maybe before we do, just as a kickoff, so who's Tracy? How did you get to where you are?
So yeah, I'll give you the Reader's Digest condensed version of a longer story. But so basically I was in our 20s, my husband Dave Parkinson, who's now my co-founder, and myself, we had a radio show at one time, our early 20s. After that was no more, was the early days of the internet. We were still looking for ways to kind of have an activist advocate voice. So we were looking online for just different things, I guess anti-racism things, just similar things to the kind of things we've been talking about, social justice themed things on our radio show. And we found information basically about a man who was innocent, claiming to be innocent on death row in Pennsylvania, and still in our young advocacy, young activist, change the world mode. We thought we maybe could. I don't know why we decided to write to him. I don't know what that moment was. I still can't. We had no death row prisoner. It was not part of our world, right? We decided to write to him. How innocent can this guy be? He wrote back 18 pages, doubles, like single-spaced, all kinds of legal documentation. Long story short, we were just galvanized. We thought, what can we do? We're not lawyers. We certainly never thought about publicists. We didn't know what that was. But I was a writer, and we decided to make a writer meaning I knew how to write. We decided to make a little Netscape web page as you could in those days without any HTML knowledge. And what do I do now? I better, find out how to tell media about it. So I literally went to the Alta Vista, the pre-Google, and I Alta Vista'd how to write a press release, literally press release template, 1999. And that got some attention, and we ended up running a 20-year campaign. Ultimately, he was released from death row, and I'll get to that part in 1 second. But during that time, we'd also started doing advocacy in general on that issue about the death penalty in the States. With no legal experience and no real media experience other than a little local radio show, here we were in our late 20s getting on through the power of messaging, through the press releases I wrote and learned how to send through the Alta Vista. We got ourselves on CNN, Court TV, MSNBC, Der Spiegel, mentioned in People magazine. Anyway, and then we just kept going with, meanwhile, we're just, doing telemarketing, doing whatever sales job. This is a completely separate activist world. We're never thinking about money or anything like that. Business lesson there is you probably have something in your personal life, whether it's a hobby or a passion, that could ultimately be monetized if you figure it out 15 years later. But anyway, we were too worried. We were just working and worried about getting Jimmy Dennis out of death row. Meanwhile, a legal team had got involved because of a lot of the noise that was being made. They were like unicorns. It doesn't happen very often. They were looking for a case of actual factual innocence, and because we'd been able to make noise the way he wouldn't have been able to do by himself out of a cell with a pen, they heard about his case and looked into it and ended up putting, they understood also that he was innocent, clearly, put in resources, law firm out of Washington, blah, blah. They did the legal work. They got him off death row. He got off of death row in 2017. Now he's recording music. By the time he gets off death row, I've had this aha moment. Wait a minute, this is something I can monetize, not the death row part, but these skills that I've been I've been doing international media, and I literally had an aha moment with one, literally like ready to make another 20 calls for some telesales job I didn't care about. And I had an aha moment, like, wait a minute, no. And because we had the power of the internet those days, I was able to start looking for little freelance jobs because I could show what I'd done, not for money, but the skills that I'd accomplished. One or two people hired me. Then Rosa Parks' cousin hired me. Rosa Parks, Alabama bus boycott. Her cousin wrote like was doing a film about the next 30 years of Rosa's life. I got that, and then obviously I start to elevate myself. And so meanwhile, gentleman gets off death row. He's recording music being written up in Rolling Stone magazine. And those two people who were just telemarketers and didn't know anything about media, meanwhile, are international award-winning publicists. So
yeah, and you've changed the world.
That's how I started. I try to tell the short version, but there is really no short version of that. But the lesson is that I didn't start as a publicist. I didn't go to school for this. I like your listeners, I was really good at something that I was doing for a reason, but I didn't think to monetize it. When I suddenly started monetizing it, since I'm so good at it, it only took me a couple of years to become literally an international, globally working, award-winning publicist. And that's what I do for my clients. Elevate and celebrate what they do, shine an international spotlight on what they do, which is more important than what I do. And that's what, and you can see the fact that I'm able to elevate my own business to this level and extent is how I show people, this is what I can do for you. When do you want to start?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's inspiring. It's no wonder you've written a book.
Crazy story, I know. Yeah, it's not the normal business podcast story.
Absolutely, yeah. But it also goes to show that there are certain tried and formulas that some people follow and it works, but we don't have to be locked into those. It's almost like sometimes life gets in the way, but then shows us clues of the path that we need to take. Just kind of intrigued, I suppose. So it sounds to me like it was your passion to do the right thing for this guy, Jimmy, that kind of triggered you finding or getting to the point where you had the aha moment. So your motive was to do the right thing first, and kind of a byproduct a little bit down the road is you realise that you've been practicing the skills of kind of wordsmithing and kind of your expertise now, but also just actually I could make this a business, even though it wasn't something that you set out to do, and you weren't using kind of that as a way of getting your foot.
No, I wasn't even. It never even occurred to me and then even when I did, I didn't do anything in that field where I'd spent 20 years building a huge because before I became an international award-winning publicist, if you Google my name and go deeper, 20 years ago, like I said, we were good at what we did. So when we were doing that advocacy work, I became an internationally quoted human rights advocate on the issue of the American death penalty from in Africa, in India, across the United States. That's what. So all that press I did, I was the spokesperson. So when they would answer the press release, I was the one on the media. I was the one doing the news. So that's how I built my whole thing. So if you are going to decide to build a business in PR, right, representing other people's messaging, you would not ever start it with the most, the innocent guy on death row. Now we all know he was innocent. That's fine. But back then it was just working death row advocacy. And we also worked with other cases where we weren't claiming they were innocent, but we were looking deeper into the U.S. justice system and how really crazy it is. So we got deeper. And so we were speaking out on that kind of thing too. So if you were looking to build your brand as a spokesperson for other people, you would try to be like, you wouldn't be like getting right in the mix on Fox and Court TV, quote unquote, doing things that some people would perceive as defending prisoners, which we were talking about the justice in the case of an innocent prisoner, yes, but the death penalty issue in general is incendiary, and so you wouldn't make that your business. That would not be your strategic business plan towards PR. Even this day, I laugh 20 years later now. I wonder if there's any reporters. I laugh. In Houston, once in a while when I'm messaging Houston, media about something randomly different, I wonder if they're like, Lamourie, wasn't that one that was out there yelling outside of the execution in the year 1999?
Made an impression. Yeah.
But the interesting, more to the point of what you said, is when I was 29 and I knew it was correct the minute he said it, my father said to me, if you and Dave, my husband, spend as much time building a business, something we never even conceived of. We were just working low-level jobs to pay the bills. Business wasn't even in our frame of mind, right? He says, if you spend as much time building a business, to his 29-year-old daughter, I'm 51 now, you would be a millionaire, as you do with these prisoner stuff, you'd be a millionaire by the time you're 30. And I stopped for a minute, I was like, you're right, because you're right, because we were passionate about it. We would come home from our day jobs and then work 4 or 5 hours typing away, doing all this, reaching out to people, to the point where we're on international media. That's a job, right? But we didn't see it that way, and I'm glad we didn't spend our 20s and 30s that way. I think I spent my 20s and 30s in a way that I look back, I'm like, wow, that was epic, even though it didn't feel like it at the time. We actually, other people say Jimmy says we helped free from death row. I say it was the lawyers. Jimmy's like, you guys started it. Nobody was listening to you. But never would have happened without the lawyers and that time and that money, and so no mistake about that. But that's a good way to spend your 30s. And now I'm business minded. I'm 51. I've been pretty good in the last 8 years at building from freelancer to the top of my field, blah, blah, blah. And that, it literally came from, I'm still heart-centered. I still want to control. I want the messages always to be good that I put out, that I have my name behind. You don't have to be an activist. It doesn't have to be, it's a lot, but I mean, I don't want it to be bad. I want to be solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, creative people, building their dreams, doing good things, and nothing that I'm ever going to be like, I don't want to get up and say that. So for that reason, I don't work for governments, or because you just can't. It's a different story. That has to be spin. That's a different game. I prefer genuine messaging where I'm elevating, celebrating, finding strategic and savvy ways to show their work, like, hey, look, this is why you should pay attention to this one. But ultimately, it's all true.
Yeah. So how can, because I know I'm not the only one, but just the whole, we think we're doing okay with our marketing. Like we can look at results and go, things are improving and that. But from a business owner perspective, whether we've been in business many years or just starting out, what would be the things to learn about pitching ourselves or our products, whatever it is we offer, and maybe what some of the pitfalls and things we should definitely avoid doing that you see people making.
Great question. Especially, I talk to entrepreneurs across industries, across the world, and I would say a good 80% of entrepreneurs do not think about the pitch or about media or about earned media or getting quoted in media, or if they do think about it, they have no idea how to go about it. They just see, gee, why is that guy getting quoted and not me, huh? Well, it's not because they went far and wide and looked for the best in his field. It's probably because he had the publicist, or he had the pitch, or he gave them the idea, or he was able to use some of the, not tricks, but tips, ways. There's all kinds of avenues that we find as publicists where we know what media is going to come out. Reporters are letting us know, hey, I have an article about whatever. I'm going to need to interview a doctor, lawyer, candlestick maker, or an entrepreneur, and there's all kinds of daily opportunities. So they missed all those. They don't even see, it's like a blind spot going, nope, no, I don't want to be in the New York Times. I don't want to be in the Boston thing. I don't want to be in NBC. It's all going by. You're just ignoring all of it. It's right there. And I don't care. And I always say, I don't care if you mow lawns for a living. If you clean toilets at the hotel, there are opportunities. You have a story. And your product has a story. And also, when we talk about thought leadership, it's also about speaking about things, not about your product or about you. Like, not like we're doing this or we have an event, but the greater, societal story about how you have some expertise based on the knowledge you have that we don't all have, that can get you in there. But one thing that I have to comment on, even in the question when you said, how can we pitch ourselves and our products, right there, the advertorial that we all have is sneaking in. We're all used to thinking, how do I pitch my product? How do I sell my phone that this is what I sell? It's not about that. You got to reframe that, because that's an ad. When you want to pitch your product, you're going to the ad department. Or even when you have a book that you want to sell, you're going to the place that reviews books. That's not really the news or most of, even lifestyle. So what you are pitching is your expertise, your story, your brain. And then the book or the thing, the widget or whatever you're selling, when we're talking about that kind of thought leadership is secondary. I'm not trying to sell your product as a publicist. Your goal is to get more customers. And what I'm doing is supporting that, because ultimately, either there's two ways when you're in media that you can't pay, mainstream media that you can't pay for, where you get customers. One, it does what the advertising does. People see it, they think, oh, that's awesome, they call you. Two, it's stronger than that, because media is saying it about you. You're not saying it about yourself with a dollar. People are, as much as advertising is important and you have to be strategic about it, audiences are also pretty clever these days, and advertising doesn't work in the same way it worked in the 50s. It's different, So I think earned media, third party, that social credibility, whatever they call it these days, is super important. And there's a million ways to actually, either with time, like if you want to put aside a few hours out of the day from what you normally do and build your business and figure all this stuff out, write up your pitch, look at these places where we look and start pitching yourself. You can, get some. Or if you have less time than money, put aside some of your marketing budget, have a publicist do it for you for a month. I work internationally. And I'm willing to even do like a podcast. What can she do for me kind of special? Because most publicists, it's standard is 3 months. You start with 3 months, 3 months minimum, $3,000 a month. So it's a big investment to start, which a lot of people have, money, but are you going to throw $10,000 at something when you're still not even really sure? You can picture in your mind how it's going to work for you. You know what an ad is, but you can't even really, is the news really going to come and interview me? I don't know. What's this girl? So I have can she do it for me? Let me see what you can do. 1 month kind of packages. I'm just calling it that now, but you know what I mean? Whereas, and in that month, it's hugely valuable because, even if you never have a publicist again and you only have that month, in that month you'll see what we mean by a pitch, and there's a million pitches we'll do for you, which are going to result in stuff, but because every pitch is different. But also that core, the more about Tracy, the more about what your general why should. So the pitch is, hey, he can speak about whatever, but this is what's convincing them. It's not a bio. It's got some stuff from your bio, but its purpose is to show that you're a compelling guest, that you know what you're talking about, that so it's different. So you need, and I always say life's a pitch, and that's a P, not a B. And it really is for everything, whether it's the resume, the job, the whatever, you put your best foot forward. But with the crowded media market, think about how many email you can certainly reach out to your own, your newsroom. They ask for stories, and mostly it's news desk ad or info ad. But number one, they're not going to open it up for real, real tips that you have to think about when you're doing this. They're not even going to open it up if that header isn't compelling. You yourself don't read every email that comes in. The newsroom certainly doesn't. They edit you're thinking it before you even open it as scrap, right? So that header has to be really strong and have that who, what, where, why do they care in it. And then you have to really edit yourself. Editorial, learn what editorial is versus advertorial. So think like a newsroom. Is what I'm presenting or proposing or what I'd like to see, is that something that I would see in a 22-minute news broadcast? Probably not, no matter how great your product is. Maybe it can be in a business, but even then, the business or lifestyle, it's easier to get into lifestyle sometimes, because business, again, the editors, they're very limited, and increasingly more so. One editor told me he used to have 18 pages, now he has 3. He had tons of stories he wanted to place that he had to wait for. So business is increasingly difficult because they know you're doing business. They want you to place an ad. They're in business too. So it's a really high bar to understand that what's the business story. It's really got to be a story. But you may be able to get in under a different way by making it a lifestyle story. That's where you talk about you or your customer or the problem you're solving, or, there's other options, like everyone knows about op-eds, but you can also offer, if you're a writer, what do you call it? We're right out of my head now. Royalty-free articles. So you can reach out to media and say, here's an article. Now, don't make that, again, editorial versus advertorial. Make it an article, something the paper would write. Your business may appear in it, but if it does, make sure 3 other businesses appear in it. Obviously, you won't want them to be your direct competitors. But say you're a lawn care company and you want to talk about you mentioned your lawn care, or quote somebody in your lawn care company. So start telling a story about lawns, about the clients you serve. Also quote a shrub guy. He's not your competition, but he's speaking to the same audience about the same thing. Talk about, so that way you're presenting an actual article of a kind that a reporter might write and giving them a gift, because newsrooms are, severely understaffed. So the old school press release where you're asking them to interview you might just fall flat, even if they're interested, just because they don't have any staff to do that, and the moment passes. So sometimes it's good to say, hey, you can interview me. Also, here's a royalty-free article. Feel free to just throw that in your paper. Don't want to get paid. It's all good. And that works a lot of times too.
So would that be like, there must be, I'm guessing, well, I don't know, I am guessing, are there certain sites that you can submit an article and then they find people for you? Would we have to use publicists sort of directly because you have the contacts, or is it kind of all
in terms of the article, I don't, there probably is something like that now that you mention it, because there's something, now that you thought of it, means somebody probably thought of that. But, and if there isn't, I think it's a good business idea. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
But generally, there are kinds of, so I don't know about a site that, aggregates and sent all over. It's more that, you could find those. Like if you're just looking for, like, I was thinking more about your local paper and, media that you may not be able to get into as easily, saying, hey, interview me, but also here's an, so I was thinking more about your local media for that. But sir, there's a lower bar actually for what you're talking about when you're talking about like Huffington Post kind of things. HuffPost isn't super easy, but there are things that look just like HuffPost that are smaller versions that are actively looking for people to not just write, trade blogs, but to actually write full articles, 800-word articles, 1,500. And this is how you build your thought leadership. Exactly. You can even do that on Medium. A lot of us know that Medium is just something that you can make as easy as you make a Facebook page, but it looks like Huffington Post. It looks like articles. So if you're a good writer and you present well and write a good article, and further, they can even pick it up. If it is good and gets readership, they can pick it up and put it on their, because then it does become like a HuffPost, put it to their front page, and then you out seeing 1 million people. But even if they never do that, just here's my new article for Medium. Here's my article, and then you put a couple together, and then you're not trying to fool anybody, because media knows what Medium is. However, there you've put together your, it doesn't matter. They can go click on it, see what you would talk about, see the kind of content you would give them, and think, oh yeah, that's good. Let's do it, and then you start reaching out to things. There's pod match services, pod match and matchmaker and things like that. But those are. They just as high profile as these days as your television. So the pictures, everything, like this, like yours. This is the podcast that has millions of downloads. You've been all over New York Times, BBC. So some older people, they think radio, television, print is media, and that these podcasts and these blogs not as good. Can you get me on? Well, the fact is, when we were in Rolling Stone magazine with the Jimmy Dennis story, and we said to them last December 2019, which was epic. But we said to them, oh, so am I going to be on the cover? It's like, buy 5 copies for my mother. We knew we weren't going to be on the cover, but we were asking if we were going to be the print issue, right? And they said, no, everybody wants to be the print. So we're really sorry, it's not going to be the print. But just to put that in perspective for you, the print issue, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was, so don't quote me exactly, but something like the print issue got generally 700,000 reads, and the online issue got 7 million.
Yeah.
So you being on the online, whereas this old people were like, but I want the magazine to put it on my wall, but the reality is 7 million. So you guys have massively bigger audience than your local television station, and a global audience. Then people might say, well, why would it be, if I do my work locally, why would I want to be interviewed here or there or whatever? Well, because that's where you get the thought leadership. You're an internationally quoted expert on whatever, and then you put that on your page. So maybe the original viewers aren't your, direct audience in terms of your customers, but then you put that on your page and all your clients share it and everybody gets excited. And then when potential customers come to look at you or your next door neighbor who does the same thing as you, who are they going to choose? That guy who's quietly doing his own thing, or the one that has been internationally quoted about this and quoted here? Clearly, that tells us, most of us will believe that means he's doing a better job, even though maybe he's not. Maybe he's just talking all the time about it, and that other guy is doing really good work, but he's not, talking. You get the spotlight shine on himself. So he's going to lose out. And that other guy, especially in the world today, where, we have so many platforms and that term thought leadership. If you're just doing your work, that's okay. If you just, want to serve those few clients and maybe the ones they recommend. But if you're building anything, if you're building business, if you're building any kind of brand, you need to find the confidence to either write about it or speak about it. And I know that's not easy for everybody, but you have to kind of do it or find somebody in your space or your company that, is comfortable with doing it, because that, otherwise you're missing just so many opportunities that are, like I said, going back in assembly line.
It's the visibility, isn't it? It's how can we, in a way that's authentic and credible, but kind of let people know that we're around, and we can do an excellent job at helping them in whatever sphere we're in. So from a practical perspective of, okay, I need to write something, I need to increase my visibility this way. Now that I've heard Tracy, I've got the option of kind of a new perspective. Not really thought about that before, but I'm going to try it. What would be maybe the first couple of steps if they're not quite at the point where they're going to hire you because the budget's maybe not quite there yet? The changing of the mindset that gets us all on the path that we really want to kind of progress down. Any sort of practical things that you could think of, or tools maybe that we could start using initially that would build on
So
that?
in terms of the mindset and thinking about, because a lot of people think it's not just, they think, sure, I'm confident, but what will I say? What is my message? Why would they actually care? Like, just sort of picture themselves. So think about, if I was to say, hey, here you are coming up on stages, introduce you and put a microphone in your face and say, what's exciting about what you do? So think about that. Answer me that question. What's exciting about what you do? Why, what gets you pumped up? What, and somewhere in there is going to be the germs of a story, right? And then another thing that we do when we're doing, like I think I mentioned it, when you're thinking about what I can say, there's your bio. And then I said the pitch changes all the time. Well, you can create the pitch instead of your bio too. Here's your bio, and then think, what would a chapter in my book be? What could some segments be that I could talk about on TV? If they were going to interview me on the radio, what would I say? So, and think about it really, because there are things you would say. Like, for example, maybe it's easier to frame it if I was writing a book about what I do. What advice would I give someone? Or what do people not know about what I do? And then you can put together things like, Tracy's great bio, blah, blah, blah. But I send that to a reporter. They're like, yeah, why are you telling me this? I don't care, But if I send it to them with, Tracy makes a compelling segment on how, you can build your dream life by looking at things that by monetizing things that you probably have never thought about monetizing. Or, Tracy talks about what is a power woman. Or Tracy talks, or whatever it is, or Bob talks about, lawn care today, how it's changed in the age of COVID, but or like things like that. That's what you call a topical release, where you pick onto something where it's already going in the media. They're going to be talking about it again. They're going to need another story. They're going to need another voice. They're going to need another angle. So you have to have something to hang it on. Could be the book you wrote, could be just the job that you do, any expertise, because again, it's all about the pitch. You don't have to be the executive founder of blah, blah, blah. You could be, the guy that works for the, for the what do you call it? People who get rid of insects. I know what I mean. Like, you could be the guy who, it doesn't matter. You're the expert. So it's a matter, and there are existing opportunities. So first get your head around some things. If I had to put together a message, then realize there's a lot of things where you don't have to put together the message. Look at things like Source Bottle. Look at things like Hero, which is help a reporter out. Source Bottle's in Australia. Hero is help a reporter out. These are things that you'll see CNN, MSNBC, Oprah. I've gotten clients in Reader's Digest using that, Oprah.com, The List, New York Times this month twice. So those are where reporters are on deadline, and mostly it's publicists getting it, but any individual or entrepreneur. And they're like, and some of them are really, obviously some of them are for experts, but some of them are really general too, like a lot, like, looking for entrepreneurs to speak about what they think 2020 is going to be like, or what their plans are for 2020, or how they got through. So any entrepreneur who wants to sit there and write an answer, and then a little bit, and then the more and more, and you don't have to have 15, previous things behind your name. It's all about that pitch. If you say a good thing and you're an entrepreneur, you fit the profile, boom, that's your first one. Like my husband, he wasn't a Bitcoin expert. He's an investor, has been studying for like 2 years. And then I started to see, some media asking people, not the expert, but people asking for investor opinion, asking for, and so he started, I said, hey, answer this. He's like, what, why? I'm like, because you do that, and that's of worth, but same reason I talk about what I know in media, hello, or PR company. So he started answering those, and now he's been featured in Finance Magnets like 4 or 5 times. And then they translated one of those articles on Ethereum into like 10 different languages. So now you search his name, and there's like languages in Asia with like Asian characters, and his name in the middle, Dave Parkinson, blah, 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 Ethereum, blah, 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 Bitcoin. He wants me to say we also take Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies.
That's a good move.
I used to, when he first got involved with it a couple of years ago, he got, his tax rebate. I was like, yeah, whatever. He put that in there, and he was always talking to me about it. I'm like, yeah, your numbers on the computer are fine. Until you're taking it out and giving me money, I don't care about your numbers on the computer going up, going down. And now he's like, you see, Bitcoin's almost, and so we have, he's like, so now listen to me. I'm like, well, if they weren't just numbers on a computer, you were taking them out once in a while. I was so busy making, working the client side and everything. But it's true. He's right. All of a sudden, our, Bitcoin, like investment portfolio on that side is going up. So now he's like, make sure when you're talking these things, tell people we'll take Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin and all those other ones that I barely pay attention to that I hear him talk about all the time.
Yeah. It sounds to me like in a lot of ways, we trip ourselves up by not being creative enough. If what I'm hearing, maybe it's how I'm hearing what you're saying, but yeah, we could almost get closed-minded to the point of we're not going to hit the big boys with our message straight away. So, it's just not going to scale to the level that we want unless we employ someone like you. But yeah, I think it's very encouraging to hear your story, and obviously you've built up a lot of contacts. You've got a lot of experience and insight into how the industry works, but also what you've shared already is just there's practical things that we can just kind of reflect on and just what is it that I would say if I was interviewed about this that would tell people things that they don't know, coaches do, or publicists do, or whatever your sphere of business or service is.
Yeah, everything.
It's just.
And if people don't believe it, I always say, call me. And again, this isn't sales, this isn't pitching. But literally, I don't mind continuing the conversation. I'll do a 20-minute because I know people watch. Go, yeah, that sounds good, but I don't believe that for me. Whether it's they don't believe it because it's of them personally or because of the job they do. No. I mean, everybody, you. So if someone's curious to challenge me on it, call me up. I'm accessible. We'll do a 20-minute call. You tell me what you do, and I'll talk to you about I'll tell you in real world, this is the kind of thing, or this is the actual thing. This would be my first step. By a week from now, I think we would have this. A week from now, you have this. I already know because I don't reinvent the wheel. Before I had to start with every client brand new. Right now, every client is new because everything is different. Everything is going to have 80% different. But at the beginning now, there's always, if you're in business, I already have a bunch of platforms. If you're in business enough that I would take you on, which means, you're intelligent, you know what you're talking about. You've got either an idea or there's no real right stage of it because it's about you, right? So, but if you pass my muster, then, you're good enough to go in the media, to go into wherever. And, I already know, I have such good relationships with, there's no such thing as bought media. These are all earned media, but I have great relationships with several editors whose thing is to spotlight successful entrepreneurs. They do articles across industries. So it's just a matter of us framing what you do, writing what you do, making it sound great, all true, but shine the kind of spotlight that we do when we shine a spotlight on people and saying, hey, this is the great new real estate agent. This is the great, because I work with clients across the literally luxury real estate agent. I have a psychologist, psychoanalyst, diversity expert, podiatrist, it doesn't matter what you do, right? I have an SEO marketing guy, a neuromarketing guy, and I get them all media, every single one, even the guy, SEO, you'd think, everyone no, not everyone knows that. And there are lots of media opportunities to speak about it. Why do they pick you over the other guy to talk about it? That's the question. Well, because you maybe have a publicist or a really good pitch, or you're presenting it well, as you're saying, I'm the thought leader, I'm the guy. If you have a question, I'm the guy. So then that you're the guy. right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That gets those questions. So yeah, so talk, like let's do a consultation. And I know at the very beginning I can tell you, yep, I can get you this, I can get you this, and that's just the beginning. Then the rest of it, we don't know what we're going to get you because that depends on you, your
Yeah.
message, your audience, all where we want to put you, what your goals are. But nobody ever leaves, after a month not being happy. So yeah,
Good.
so just
Yeah.
if you have a marketing budget, call me and I'll give you that, check it out kind of rate for a month. And if you don't, but even if you just want to, have a call to see, you don't have to have a commitment to call me. You can call and be like, all right, Tracy, let me see what you convinced me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you.
Yeah. No, it's really good. We're almost at the end of our time, but just briefly, the book. So is it actually out yet, or how close?
No, soon. No, it's got an ISBN number and a cover, and they're just waiting on me to stop doing all the PR and maybe the podcast and finish the writing. But pretty much, I'm down to the home stretch. I wanted to add a lot of things. There's been a lot of experiences and things, even in the last year, that I went back and was like, well, I really want to add that and kind of add one part about crisis communications and one part about, maybe what you do when things go bad and just dealing with me. So I'm kind of layering it and adding some things to give more worth in it, but it should be out soon. So hopefully we were saying spring, so spring, early summer, as soon as I stop talking and start writing a little more. But yeah, it's all literally ready to go.
No, that's good. That's good. Okay, maybe just one last. Can I squeeze out one more thing before we wrap up for now? Just any other things that you've noticed that entrepreneurs, particularly, we're guilty of sort of tripping ourselves up in the things that we don't do, whether it's mindset, whether it's just kind of not being creative enough in how we communicate. Any kind of last minute nugget that you could share?
I think a lot of it is true, not being creative and thinking about the opportunities that exist. And I mean, that's all of us too. I mean, when we started with the Women of Inspiration, I was nominated for that this year and ultimately won. Way me. But I realized in that process, I had never really even thought about those awards. And then, so first thing I did was I nominated, 10 of my Power Women clients across industries, and some of them, two of them won, and a couple of them were, finalists over. But anyway, the point is, we weren't in that mix before. You may not be in that mix. There are lots of things you don't think about, whether it's those panel opportunities, whether it's awards. You probably know the ones within your industry, but there are other things that are more, the Entrepreneur's Award of whatever, so there's other things that you're not being nominated for, you're not being interviewed for, because you're not thinking about. So because we're too busy doing our thing, working really hard, which, that's how we built our businesses, and that's how we're getting successful. But also, we're literally, like, again, just picture that assembly line going by with all those media on it, and you're just like, yeah, no, I'm too busy. No, I'm too busy placing an ad in my little paper here to be quoted in the New York Times right now, because it's not a lie. Those things are literally, that's not the press releases I'm talking about. I'm talking about those things where they're daily looking for quotes for people across industries, and you're not looking at that. You're not in the mix. Get in the mix. Have the confidence in yourself to get away from your desk and also speak out about things. So I would say, build up yourself so you can build up your brand. And then once you build up your brand, you've made your $1 million, please also do some more good in the world with that, because you've got your money, you got your platforms. What is success? Success is also bringing other people along with us and doing good things. And think about your legacy and what your life means to the end of it all too. So build up yourself, build up your brand, build up each other, build up the world, do good things with the platforms that you're, skilled, driven, and blessed enough to get.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. And yeah, it's throwing in the making sure that we do things for other people in the process. Yeah, is key as well. And yeah, I mean, it certainly helped you get focus on the things that you discovered you were good at. The business then appeared.
It turned out it was a good big business strategy too. Who knew?
Yeah. Well, what if we started with the good, focused on doing the good first, and then trusting that the money will come as the byproduct? I think that's
it works for me. Again, different avenue. Who would have thought that, talking to the people that were the least, considered the least, we're going to kill them, don't even bother, we're not listening, would elevate me to the job that everybody thinks is so cool with the in normal years, VIP parties and travel, which 5 different continents, but all that stuff happened. It probably wouldn't happen if I was thinking trying to get there, trying to step over other people to get there. So yeah, stay genuine, stay authentic, believe in yourself, and then also believe you can do good.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. There's so much gold in what you shared with us today.
Thank you so much.
I'm definitely going to listen back to it, and I've been keeping notes as we go. But yeah, I know there's some bits that I want to think on more. So thank you. You certainly got me thinking, and I'm trusting that everyone that's listening is asking themselves the question of, okay, so what have I been missing? What am I not thinking about that I could? Now that I've heard Tracy speak, what is it I'm going to do differently? I think that's key, and we can't we? Everybody listening to our voices.
Yep. I expect everybody to. So do something awesome this year, and then here's the challenge. By the end of this year, you'll have a perfect pitch, and you'll be messaging the UK Business Show, telling them about all the awesome stuff you've done, all the great things you've learned, and maybe asking for a guest spot, because you can do that. It's all in your power, and right now, this year, do it. Go do something great. Believe in yourself. Get a message you want to share, and then come back and tell these guys, I learned how to do it on your show. Put me on. Wouldn't that be a nice piece?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So how can people reach out and touch base with you? You've got websites?
So they can find me on the web at lamouriemedia.com, or on Facebook, where I live, at Tracy Lamourie, Lamourie. Instagram is Tracy Lamourie PR Media. And I guess that's it. And you can email me, lamouriepr@gmail.com, or that old-fashioned telephone technology I always forget about. You can phone me too. Area code 289 in Canada, so 1-289-788-5881, and say you saw me on UK Business Show and you want to talk about all that stuff I was talking about.
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds good. Nice one. Thank you again for sharing everything.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the show. The show is great, and a lot of education on it for all of us, and also the platform as well.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. No, we'll go away and start thinking more creatively now. Definitely.
Right.
So that's
we have time right now. Do it.
Absolutely. Yes. Make this year special. And report back on it. That sounds good. So for everybody listening as well, make sure you do check out Tracy's website. There will be a link below where you're seeing and hearing this, so just follow through on that. I just want to mention one other thing before we close this show off. Yeukai's actually now launched a lifestyle mastermind group as well, where he's brought together a panel of experts covering different areas of life, which works throughout the year. So it's covering things like income strategies, health practices, how to achieve ultimate happiness within your lifestyle, and healthy relationships. Sounds too good to be true? Well, you need to jump in, and there's a promo code available where the link for this is below where you're listening to that as well, next to Tracy's link. All these links, but there's a promo code there where you can use to get a massive discount. So yeah, make sure you do that. But don't forget to look at Tracy's website as well. There's lots that we can learn from her on our site as well. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks again, Tracy. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much.
Together again soon, no doubt. And thanks everybody. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.